Welcome to Digital Grocer, Season 7, Episode 3. This is the second half of our interview with Todd Renaud, the CIO at Southeastern Grocers. If you missed the first half, there's a card on the screen and a link at the description for our audio-only listeners. Here's the second half of our conversation. Enjoy. And Todd, you're going through this journey, and I really want to know from your perspective, what are the challenges that you're seeing from implementing what you're doing and AI within Southeastern Grocers?
Yeah. Well, I think anyone in technology will tell you money, right? Having enough money to do what you want to. But that really isn't the biggest challenge per se. Not that we could always use more. I think it's just like any other technology. How do you innovate? What do you spend your time on? To me, and I didn't invent this thought, I was actually listening to a conference one day and they were talking about data. Data has to be clean and it has to be connected. And when they said it, and when I say it to you and to the listeners, a lot of people say, "No, duh, Todd. Yeah, ooh, that sounds. Hope you didn't use AI to come up with that." But if you really think about it and start to unpack it, I mean, yeah, it's true, but with AI, it's actually times 10 true or times 100 true. Is because it how fast it's using information, how much people trust the response, even though they know it lies or it hallucinates or is incomplete, because it's so easy. It happens so quickly. It's easy to just say, oh, yeah, that's accurate. And it exacerbates deficiencies, gaps, et cetera, in the data that you have. And, garbage in, garbage out actually becomes more true because you don't have even a human really looking at it in a way to do a sanity check or something that kind of gets at your gut a little bit, because AI is not thinking, contrary to any movie or magazine or book that people read. So data is the biggest challenge for us, is how do we make sure I have the right data, it's clean, it's connected, it's updated on a regular basis. So that's number one. Number two is still going to come back to people. And people and their skill sets and being able to leverage this new technology. If you have people on your team who are curious, they're going to do well with AI. If you have those that aren't, they're not going to. It's like any other technology. They're not going to embrace and learn that. But we need to do upskilling because it's a new set of skills, and there's nothing you can go to college for really at the end of the day. You can read some books, but it changes so quickly. I mean, who would have thought a year ago when everyone said AI prompt engineers are getting hired for $250,000 a year? And now if you said, hey, what's your title? And I said AI prompt engineer, they'd laugh. Why? Because AI is the prompt engineer. You don't need a human to do that. That's how quickly it's moved. Before it even got settled in, the job's gone. The pushback still to me exists, this cultural shift of that AI empowers, it doesn't replace. That's how you ultimately need to review it. And so getting that cultural shift, I think, is there. So to me, it comes down to data and people and their attitudes and the culture associated with it. And so what we're really trying to do is to make it less scary, to make sure it's governed. And again, to go back, I use the words, awareness and engagement, education. That's really, really important. And then just repeat that over and over again. But I think at our company, it will best serve us if we let it grow organically. I can't own it all. I don't want to be the department that's the Oracle on the hill and they have to get approval. No, I'm going to give them the tools and let them go. I just got to make sure the data's safe, which it is. And we do prevent a few things from being accessed and off our network because we just still have to do that. People sometimes make mistakes and we want to prevent that from happening.
Yeah. I can imagine in the day, it's like when people shifted from the typewriter to WordPerfect.
Yeah.
It's like, here's a better tool, here's a better option, try it. And eventually you get enough adoption, enough scale in it, and you're like, okay, we're done. This is how we're going to do things moving forward. And I'm probably dating myself using the word typewriter in any case. And you're right about data in flight and data at rest. And when we did our Snowflake implementation, I think this is like going on 4 or 5 years now, and our real-time processing for our personalization engine, we had to reimagine how we were QAing our data and reviewing it. Gone, or I wouldn't say they're completely gone, but minimizing the whole ETL process for us was a bit of a mind shift where you could take a snapshot, easily QA it and fix it. that's completely changed. Todd, when you look into your crystal ball,
Well,
so
hey, Sylvain, just for a sec,
yeah,
let me
sure.
give you a different another perspective, because I've been talking a lot more about an IT team and the corporate office, but let's go
Mm,
out to the stores and talk about your question
yeah.
there. And I think this example is going to be, it was incredibly interesting to me. So we created a store assistant, and simply we took some standard operating procedures and we enabled it through, it's not even really generational. It's not creating new content. It's basically for certain departments, how do I do X? And before, they might have
Mm,
a 300-page manual. We took it, turned it, trained the AI, and you could say, how do I do X? And it'll come back with the SOP. It'll show it. Initially, it was still the PDF. So, it's not really made for a tablet or a handheld like we want to eventually, but it took it and digitized it, put it there, and it showed reference. So it said, if I want to be able to do X, it would say, here's how you do it. And it would give you the link to the actual SOP, and you could pull that up. And so we marketed, educated, piloted, and rolled it out as a store assistant for very specific departments. And you know what was happening is a majority of our questions coming back, because we logged any question that didn't have an answer, were not related to the store operating procedures. They were related to generic company questions. Hey, I got a question on my benefits. How do I do this in a different department? Asking other questions. And not everybody, we had those that were viewed that as, I don't want to call it a failure, but like, oh my goodness, we're going to have to figure out how to do this. And I got excited because what I said was, wait a second. Within literally a week or two of people rolling out, they were comfortable with the technology and they're asking
wow.
it to do more. And guess what? We can do more. I can give those answers. We just need to start thinking about it differently to be able to do that. So I think about changing the people and the culture. I also think that people are ready for this. They're using it today. And you referred earlier to and I can't remember the term you used about, making it easy, available to everyone. I call it democratizing brute computing power too. For $20 a month and now free, you could get ChatGPT, and the world was your oyster from processing power for that. So I think the biggest challenge also might be, we're going to be behind our users. We're going to be behind our customers and what they want to do. So the companies that can figure this out ahead of time, or be, like I always like to say, capability ahead of need, those are the ones that are going to be leveraging this technology for success. And so we're trying to shift that thinking here on our team here to say, hey, think differently about this. So anyway.
But your concept of decentralizing, you have your little team, but decentralizing it and letting people try it and letting it
Yeah.
grow organically, which I think is code for they're going to do what they're going to do, is the right approach, because at their fingertips they have it in Instagram, they have it in Facebook, and they have it in Gemini that's now implemented in
Yeah.
Google. So they're tasting it now today. I think it's a matter of time before somebody just kind of says, okay, well, in my day to day, I should be doing this. Air Canada or Delta, I can't remember which airline, but they've decided to replace their entire IVR tree with, as opposed to training of voice recognition on the proper enunciation for all the various ethnic groups that are calling in, they just boldly turned on AI. And I think it's 40% cost savings out of the gate is being realized just by doing that, which is pretty phenomenal example. If you've ever set up IVR.
We're dabbling in that area as well. Nothing like what you just described. As a technologist, I'd be very interested in understanding how long it took them to actually turn that on, and how did they do it? How long did they have to train? Did they do a lot of listening? Did they use AI to do that knowledge build and translation and transfer to kind of get to that point? And I think that's a good example of when they say, look, AI is going to take some jobs. Yeah. I mean, you just described that long term. I mean, that's a reality. Call center reps are probably not going to be a job in 5 years, or much less that's going to be an area that you're going to have that. But you still need someone to train, someone to teach the response, someone to be empathetic, someone to be less than empathetic, depending. There's all of that. So you could actually take a lot of those individuals and say, well, you're now going to help train the model, and so I think it's a job shift. But that's incredibly interesting examples of AI usage that has real business value.
So when you look into your crystal ball
Yeah.
and you think 3 to 5 years out, What excites you about AI in grocery?
So I came from outside grocery. I was in retail, did finance, consulting, energy products. So I've always been a technologist. So I like to say that I have a lot of viewpoints to bring in any place that I'm working. But grocery is an area that excited me because the opportunity for innovation. Although I would also say, outside looking in, again, I've only been here 4 years in grocery, and many more people in this industry have been here for a long time. The more things change, the more they stay the same when it comes to grocery. We still have checkout stands. We still have baskets. You still got to go down the aisles to get food. What's interesting is my kids who are in their early 20s, they love grocery shopping. And not because I work at a grocery store. I mean, they have a relationship with food. They have a relationship with what they're putting in their basket. They actually like the process of it. Not everyone's like that at any age, but I find that very interesting. So there's something deep and primal with shopping, I think, for food with humans. And I don't know that that's going to change in our lifetime. But when you think about how we can make the process more enjoyable and how we can make sure out of the 30,000 products that are in a store that they're getting the best ones for what they want and when they want it, I think the customer side of AI is important. So I think of things more with online, for example, AI agents. And look, that's a simple term now, but how does that grow long term? I think about being able to go into a store as a customer and really think about the vision piece. How can vision work for personalization? How can it work for just finding the products, taking advantage of all of that? I think that's really exciting for grocery. Meta glasses. You think about the movie with Tom Cruise, and I'm having complete brain fade now as we're talking here, the Minority Report, whereas he's walking through the aisle and they do his eyeballs and say, "Hey, you haven't bought pants from us in a while," or something of that nature, right? I mean, being able to see what's in your basket. Hey, you've got something. If you add rice, you'll be able to do X, Y, and Z. So anything to do with vision and some kind of feedback loop through an app, through your Meta glasses, through your earbuds, whatever you have in the future for that. I know I'm jumping around. If I go back to the agents, is the automation preparing your grocery shop, preparing the recipes, the meals, and probably some areas that I can't even think about that's based on your history. And if you're willing to give all that information or access to it, that can really make your life better, no different than social media did in its infancy for some of that. I think the vision and voice also from just general corporate standpoint of how am I represented from a digital self? I mean, that's not something a lot of people are comfortable with now because of the security piece, I think is there. There is a huge efficiency play, and that's not exciting per se, especially not for the customer. But I think there's a lot of opportunity in there to really make these processes so much better. And then I'd also say, how can we make it such that the people and the associates that are in our stores are able to spend time focusing on the customer and not on getting a product onto a shelf at the right time or knowing when fruit's going bad or when expiration dates are happening. And so anything associated with that, and instead letting it be more of an interactive experience between our customers and our associates, to me is pretty exciting. To do any of this, though, retailers are going to have to invest in data foundations, and everything associated with it. I could say data under, blank line, and there could just be 10, 15 other terms in there. And today we talk about AI literacy. I think that's the infant way of looking at it. It's really thinking beyond what makes AI interesting and what skill sets do you need. And that's interoperability, thinking about leveraging pieces. It's almost like everyone needs to learn how to code, right? It's the code mentality of, so they're not going to code, but they have to learn to put pieces together and to create agents. And so how are we going to deliver that type of skill set so people can do that into the future, or you're just going to create a faster way for failure to happen as well. So I think it's on this one, I would tell you it's hard for me to imagine where we'd be in a couple of years if it keeps growing at this. My question would be, and maybe you could come up with a blink thought for you, are we going to see a plateau and even a drop, right? I mean, the cost of this processing, the number of these offerings and tools and AI becoming so ubiquitous in nomenclature as well as being embedded, do we see to where it really doesn't change as much from now into the next 5 years because it now becomes something everybody has, and therefore you're back to where you are today pre-AI. So
I think the cycle of innovation has peaked.
yep, interesting.
Uh,
Okay.
and it the last few weeks, and the trades are inundated with news on everything else, right? And I say it's peaked because we had a much smaller language model come out of China that's less costly to
Yeah.
operate, but the efficiency is good enough. And I think that stopped the hype cycle for OpenAI, NVIDIA, the chip makers, and I think Microsoft's what they're doing with Copilot. It's a bit lost, is my sense. I don't think they know. And I think a lot of that is driven because this technology straddles the consumer market, straddles the enterprise space, and no one's found anything yet concrete for it. Not concrete for it to do, but what is a true ROI? It reminds me in the day when we had the 98 bubble, the internet bubble, and everyone said, oh my, the Nortels, the Quests, the AT&Ts of the world overestimated the bandwidth requirement by 16x too high. And so I think there needs to be a bit of a retreat. And our business leaders, and you being one of them, will stand back and say, okay, guys, great. Thanks for the tech. Let me figure out what to do with it now. Once we figure out what we can do with it, then that's going to be the marching order where this tech will go for retail at that point. That's my view. But I don't have triplets sitting in a pool of water behind me, the precogs here that are kind of determining where everything should go.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So Todd, if I was a retailer and I was, grocery retailer and I'm flirting in this space, I don't know what to do. I'm early stages. What would you advise me?
Okay. A couple things come to mind because, again, we've been doing this for a bit. I would say under promise and over deliver, only because you're going to go up against some of the more difficult challenges, such as people, culture, some pushback, the governance required, security, and to do those appropriately takes time. I think that's, number one for that. Number two, don't underestimate change management and education required and awareness. It's really making sure people understand what's in it for them. Why should they do this? And not to be scared of it, but to leverage it. Already referenced early on, tackle the governance and security head on. Do it first. And, look, your company culture is going to dictate some of this. Do you have to even do more or less? But go ahead and get that out of the way, get that understood. And that goes back with the education and the awareness. And if you can get those pieces out of the way, you're going to end up being able to go faster when you get there. I would also move very, very quickly. I would suggest you move very quickly and be comfortable with breakage. And again, someone might say, listen to this. No, duh, Todd, that's, or, that's what Facebook and Amazon always said, go fast, break things, so forth and so on. But the reality is the technology is moving so fast. The solutions are moving so fast. If you take 6 to 9 months to do something, by the time you get done, you're 2 versions behind. And it's so how can you architect your process to move very quickly and do it in an agile and a fast feedback loop? The final thing I'd say is you need people who are going to be curious to push this forward. You need those who are going to be passionate, because that's what it's going to take. There's no roadmap today. Maybe in 2 to 3 years there will be, but there's no roadmap to this. There's no user manual for the technology. It's not like a Microsoft Office or an Excel where, it maturates over time. But at the end of the day, you learn it, you get certified, you move to the it's moving too quickly and there's no roadmap. So how are you going to navigate that? You've got to have people who are curious, ask questions, move quickly, and do so in, a way that doesn't put the company at risk. That'd be my advice for today. Ask me again in a week or two. I'll be that much further along and that might change, but it's an exciting time because it is moving so quickly and you'll get that immediate feedback.
Absolutely. Sir, I want to say thank you for joining us on Digital Grocer.
Well, you're welcome.
And for those of you who want to get a hold of Todd, you can find him on LinkedIn, his profile, and I'm sure you can just DM him any of your questions.
Great. Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on the show.
Thank you, sir.
Don't forget what you have to say.
Oh, yes. Subscribe and like.
That's right. And so you can get all the episodes, even our back catalog, pushed into your feed. So
the classics. I feel like this is like a 70s revival band, and I'm like, we're touring to a casino near you, and we're going to be playing the hits.
There you go.